Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I've got the Lawn Fawn stitched pond and the stitched pond frame, and I'm just going to use the stitched pond frame with all the bits that go with it and a number of different distressings. And we're also going to use some alcohol inks on this shaker card diorama thing. I don't know what I'm calling this. So I've got the piece that I cut out of acetate, and I realized I had some goop on it, so I'm just trying to clean it up. And I used an anti-static powder tool on it as well, although I probably should have done that later on. But I just sort of cleaned it up because I didn't, it seemed to have something on the acetate. So I've got the two greens that I happen to have in alcohol ink. One is slightly darker. I think one is actually called lettuce and the other one maybe meadow. So they're two different shades of green. And then I also have, I brought out both colors of the alcohol pearl in green, but I only use one of them. I didn't feel like I needed the other one either, but the alcohol pearls you have to shake really well, because there's actually like a mixing ball in there to mix all the like shimmery pearly bits that go with it. So you have to shake the living daylights out of it to get it to mix completely. So that's what I was doing there, and then I just dabbed it onto this applicator. And now this is the old applicator, so you can get the round one now, and it's the I just dabbed a few spots of those colors and then sort of dabbed, but as I was dabbing or tapping it onto the acetate, I was moving it side to side as well, so it wasn't straight up and down in the same position. I was twisting it as I went. And then I decided it needed more, so I added a bit more of each of the colors, but no more of the blending solution. The blending solution just helps those colors move a bit more, that's all, so you don't end up with sort of dots of color. And then I was happy with that. And then to clean up, I'm just using a bit of anti-bac, but in the gel form, and this just means it stays wet for longer, so it doesn't evaporate straight away, so it cleans up nicely on your media mat or on a glass mat. And now I'm going to take, I don't know why I use these tiny little finger daubers to be honest, for this pond bit, because it's quite a large piece, but I'm taking, I think it's the broken china, and I'm using that as the base color for the pond and also the rim around the pond. I do actually go back and add some green to, I think it's peeled paint, to the top of this sort of frame, because the blue you'll see in a second is just too blue, and I wanted it to look like that murky water, so I had to add some extra color to that later on. But I'll show you here how this is going to work together, but you see how it's too blue there, so I will add that later on. And then I've got all the pieces that I die cut two of the frogs, two of the lilies, four of the lily pads, I guess, four grass, and then the cattails as well, with their little things that go on the top, the little brown bits so that form part of the cattail. I thought this was going to work. I've got the back of a sticky note here, because it's just a little bit of tack, but it didn't, and they will come off in a minute. So in the end I just used my finger to hold every piece. I just thought because they're so tiny it might work quite well, but it didn't. So just getting the brown onto these colors, and the paper I've used is a acrylic paper, I believe, so it can withstand like water and moisture and things like that. Not that I'm really using anything like that on there. I mean, I could have spritzed everything like I do normally, but I don't do that. But I just thought it was nice sturdy paper that I could use for my distressings, and also distressings on things like different watercolor papers. You have to try them out, but the way that the distressing reacts to that, or how easily it goes onto it, is quite amazing when you try different papers and things. So I'm just getting the this is forest moss For this green, I've got 3 greens, I believe. Is it 3 greens? I think there were 3 greens. So 2 of the greens are for the grass and these little cattail things. I actually remember the name of them. And a bit of cleanup. And then the next colour, I've got peeled paint, and I've also got the new can't remember what it's called now, rustic wilderness, which I'm using on the lily pads. It's a lovely green, that. Really like this green. And then the peeled paint is going to be for the frogs. I just thought they looked like they needed to be that peeled paint kind of look. It's like that sort of, I don't know, I think toad when I see this green with the frogs. I don't know why, but it's got, I think because it's got a bit of a brown hint in there. That's just what I can see. That's not necessarily what's actually in it. So I coloured all my, both my frogs. And then more cleanup, of course. And then my lilies, I've got 2 shades of pink. I've got picked raspberry for this darker, brighter top piece, which is like a layer that'll go on top of it. And then I'll use Kitsch Flamingo, which is just a fabulous pink. It's one of the new colours as well, for the the under part, or you know, to give it some depth of the flower. So I think they call them water lilies or something. I ain't an expert. Right, so I've put some of these pieces together just to save a bit of time. So the water lilies I've put together and all that, and the cattails. So the foam that I used is just Fun Foam, and I actually managed, it's sort of stretched it a little bit, but I used the frame and I used 2 layers of Fun Foam together. I used some Stick It, it's like double-sided tape, but it's like it comes in full sheets, and I used a piece of that, and I actually cut 2 layers of foam. Honestly, I probably didn't need 2 layers of foam. 1 layer probably would have been fine in the end, as it turns out, but I wasn't sure exactly what I was putting inside the pond as such. So I cut 2 layers. It did stretch it a little bit, so it's a little out of whack, but it's fine. You could also stack, you could also cut like numerous pieces of the frame in cardstock and just layer the cardstock if you don't have foam or Fun Foam or anything like that. And then for the back of the frog's eyes and mouth, I just used a piece of sort of dark grey cardstock, and I just cut a piece to fit behind there. so he didn't look so bleak, you know, so he's actually got a face. So I put one of the frogs in the pond, and I am then gonna get the things to go in the pond. So this is a shaker style 3D pond, I think is what I'm going to call it, something like that. So I've got 2 different size sequins here, and I've got some in silver and some in like a mother of pearl iridescent kind of color. We can't really call it a color, but yeah. And it actually works out really well because it looks really nice once you get the green layer of acetate over the top. It just seems to work. So just so there's some glint of things. Now you could add tons of other things into this pond. I just thought the frog underneath would look kind of cute, but yeah, you could add other things in there as well, not just the frog himself. So if I had other little characters or little bugs or something, you could add tons of those sort of things on there as well. So then I took the top layer of sticky off the foam and stuck the acetate piece on, and now I'm using the frame, the top frame, to add some double-sided tape to that, so that I can then stick that on top, so it finishes off the shaker part of the pond, if that makes sense. So yeah, and this is where I had to sort of finagle a bit, because everything had stretched a bit, so trying to get the actual pieces to line up took me a minute or two. So but I'll get there, and it looks okay. This is the only thing with foam, is that sometimes if you've got too many layers of it, like if there's one layer of the fun foam, it's not too bad. It seems to go through the machines, you know, your die cut machines really, really well. But if you've got more than one layer, it seems to want to stretch it. So that's unfortunately what happened, but it looks okay. I mean, it worked out fine. And then I'm just going to decorate the top of the pond itself. So I've got the other frog, and I've got the lilies with the lily pads, and then I have the other two, just the pads on their own, no lilies, lilies on top of them. I suddenly thought I'd used the wrong word there, but anyway, yeah. And then I love how the pink just suddenly pops. It just makes it's just an added prettiness. And I think the sort of iridescence of it's like a mother of pearl on that sequence inside. You can still see a hint of pink on there, so it sort of ties the two together, which is very cool. And then the grass, I decided to actually, now normally if you were sticking this to a card, you could stick it flat around the edges, and I've done a similar card where I made the I didn't do a shaker, but I used the chicken duck die from Fawn and made it into like he was in the water in the in the pond, but it was all flat. Whereas this, I'm trying to stick them up so that it's like a 3-dimensional pond. So trying to stick them to the side was a bit tricky, mostly because of the way the foam had stretched from the side, the outer edge of both the base of the pond and the frame of the pond at the top, they were bigger than the foam underneath. So that was fine, so that you didn't really see any foam sticking out, but it was harder to actually stick something in there. So I had to do a lot of finagling to get these little guys to stick on here, but eventually they do stick, so it's fine. You'll see that in a minute. So I started off with just a PVA glue and then I actually went to a Fabri-Tac, funny enough, and that seemed to just hold a bit better, and because it's clear as well, although this one will dry clear, the other one was clear as well to start with. It just seemed to grip the paper and hold it onto the foam much better. So yeah, so in the end that's what I did. But what I did was I put the cattails in one little corner, if you like, of the pond, and then all the little bits of grass on the other end. You could go mad. You could do this all the way around, or all along the back part of the pond, but I didn't. I just did it a couple places with the ones that I cut out. But there you have it, one cute little pond, like a 3D pond. Yeah, I think more grass around and cattail around the edges would have looked much better, actually. It would have just made it more full, but it just gives you an idea. And then there's the foam on the side there. I actually use blue foam, but it doesn't really matter what colour it is. And that's it, guys. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope you try and create something 3-dimensional with your paper crafting dies, you know, the products that you have. And I will see you next time. Bye.